All right, we're ready.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I would like to call this meeting to order. It's 6 p.m., the 11th of July. I'd like to announce that this meeting is being recorded. I'd also like to announce that we are teleconferencing under the Ralph M. Brown Act. Board member Ella Scholes is teleconferencing from APDO 1485-4050 Alajuela, Costa Rica, per Government Code 54953B. The agenda has been posted at the stated location for 72 hours prior to this meeting, and the location provides the opportunity for public members to address the board. All votes during this meeting will be roll call votes. Jonathan, may I have a roll call?
Director Aguilar,
Here.
Topliff,
Here.
Brandt,
Here.
Freeman,
Here.
Craig,
Here.
Shaw.
Here.
All right. Before we begin, we would like to acknowledge the Chumash people who are the traditional custodians of this land. We pay our respects to the Chumash elders, past, present, and future, who call this place Anisqueo, the land that Isla Vista sits upon, their home. We are proud to continue the tradition of coming together and growing as a community. We thank the Chumash community for their stewardship and support, and we look forward to strengthening our ties as we continue our relationship of mutual respect and understanding. Now I'd like to move on to our consent agenda. Do any members of the board wish to pull items from the consent agenda? Do I hear a motion on this consent agenda?
I'll move to approve. I'll second.
All right, thank you. We have the motion from Topliff and the second from Director Craig. Is there any public comment on this motion? I see no public comment on this motion. Jonathan, may I have a roll call vote on this motion?
Yes. Director Aguilar,
Yes.
Dr. Topliff,
Yes.
Director Freeman,
Yes.
Dr. Craig,
Yes.
Dr. Brandt,
Yes.
Dr. Schultz.
Yes.
All right, this motion passes 6-0-0-1. I'd like to move on to the public comment period. At this time, any member of the public may speak on matters within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board of directors that are not on the agenda. The board will not take action on any item not on the agenda except as provided by law. Do any members of the public wish to speak? All right, I see no public comments, so let's move into our discussion and action items. Item 4.1, the Isla Vista move out debrief.
All right, well, I'll turn it over to our team in a second with Jenna to go over this, but I just wanted to preface this as it seemed like it was a huge success for us this year, and Move Outer is our first year doing a big initiative. So it's exciting to go over it and then start thinking about next year. But yeah, I'll turn it over to Jenna to go over the presentation, and just wanted to also introduce our team here, Andrew. And sorry, could you remind me your name? I know we briefly met the other day.
Adamson.
Adams, yeah, he was on the crew. He did the
Yay.
work. So, and Andrew, of course,
Great
organized.
He
job.
lives at Hedges.
Great job.
So, yeah, I think Jenna's gonna take it away to present, and Carly will present as well.
Thank you. All right, we're gonna keep this very simple and go over what we did this year for move out. So obviously the huge one is we contracted Earthcomb, and they did just an amazing job. I cannot believe how much positive feedback I have gotten. So many people noticed the work that they did. So you can clearly see
Pictures
that.
say it all, don't
Yeah.
they?
Love seeing the photos. So here, Andrew took multiple different statistics, but here are the most straightforward ones. So just so that you know, there's the total amount of bagged trash, because they bagged a lot of the litter that was just scattered everywhere. And then the second number is total amount of trash that was just put back into the trash can. So then we have a breakdown of how much litter they got off of each street percentage wise. So that's just huge, as you can see. So next, coordination with the county. So what we did this year is we just met with code enforcement. beforehand, and Andrew was there as well, and we just talked about what he was gonna do and what we should do if we see any issues. So there are a lot of times where I would be emailing Ricardo, the code enforcement officer, about certain situations, and he was able to respond pretty quickly, and having Earthcomb as well just took a lot of pressure off of everyone else. Next time we'll meet with code enforcement and Marburg way further in advance. And we're going to make sure that the county is aware of all of our resources and includes them on their move out email that they send out. I made it very clear that we want to be a part of that next year.
And I just want to add in that we did do that last year, and Carrie and I met with county, and Sydney was there too, and we let them know we wanted them to involve us this year, and that just didn't, it just didn't happen.
We gotta keep saying
We
it.
gotta keep saying it, but yeah, they just kind of did their thing without working with us, even though we had put our foot forward. And when Jenna started too, we met with them, so.
And I will say, we just had a meeting, a recap meeting with code enforcement, and Andrew and Ricardo, the code enforcement officer, invited the Marburg route supervisors. So that was amazing to get to talk to them, and they are really on board with what Andrew's doing, and they're willing to coordinate even more next year with us. So that's great news. So next is the give sale. So what we did is we really pushed for volunteer signups, and we used gift cards as incentives because last year there was a huge problem with the lack of volunteers. We provided staff support, myself included. I was there almost every day helping out. And then Earthcomb moved the leftover items into storage, which this saved Viviana's team a ton of time because they didn't even have to deal with the furniture. So overall, we were helping Viviana to do the give sale, which is so essential because of how many items she ends up saving from the landfill. So this part, I'm going to pass over to Carly to talk about Food on Wheels.
Hey everybody, yeah, Food on Wheels was really awesome this year. We were able to collect 3,000 food items, and that we donated to multiple local food banks. So that was really successful. And as you can see on the next slide, we were able to do a lot of education in the process by kind of motivating people to donate their food before they compost it and all the other steps along the way. So it was super fun. And yeah, it was a great success this year. Thanks so much, Jenna, for sort of supplying that structural support, because it really made a big difference this year.
Thank you. Your team did an amazing job with this.
And last time we were here, wasn't like that.
Yeah.
The side of the room just piled with food. That was pretty cool
all
to see.
them. Thank you, Carly. So another thing that we did was the unwanted item pickup in the 3-month span before move out happened. So we just offered a service where we could pick up items from people's doorstep and then bring them to the thrift store. So the outcome was people used the service, and we kind of allowed the thrift stores to be a little bit less strained during move out, which I know that they are. Next time I want to do this unwanted item pickup year round. Not that I think people are going to be using it every week of the year, but at least that way everyone knows of it as being a very regular service. We had our May yard sale. So this was a way to encourage people to start getting rid of items before move out and also use it as an educational opportunity. About 110 people sold items. So next year, we're definitely going to do it again. Rather than doing 2 yard sales like we did last year, we'll probably just do this one big May sale. And we will try to provide some more incentives to ensure that all of the yard sales get foot traffic. That's some feedback that I had gotten from last time, but it was a big hit. And then next, we did the cardboard box distribution, and I forgot to write on here, but we also followed Henry's advice and offered shredding as well. So a few people came and shredded their papers that they needed to throw away, and they were really appreciative of it. So we collected a bunch of boxes from local businesses, and they were gone within 10 minutes. We had thought that we had more than we needed, but that was not true. They were just gone like that. And I had to just sit there for the next 2 hours telling everyone. So next year, we know collect way more boxes and that we're going to get a lot of foot traffic at this event. So maybe we can use that to our advantage. Next, and well, lastly, education. We tried really hard to educate residents to be mindful during move out and get rid of their items in a sustainable way. We let them know about the resources that were available to them. And we just made a big thing about it on social media, and we sent out emails and tabled. So ultimately, we kind of put the culture of move out on the forefront and made it a thing. So people kind of are aware that we can make it whatever we want it to be, and we want to make it better. So I think that it made people more conscious of their environmental impact during this time. So next year, we're going to continue doing this same thing, but now that we already have the strategy and all the educational materials together, hopefully we can have an even greater reach. But that is the end. And thank you, Earthcomb, for all that you've done. It just night and day difference.
Yeah, I just want to thank you for that report and say thank you to our Earthcomb partners. If either one of you have anything you want to share with the board or with the public, please do so now. Any unique tales or any fulfilling moments?
I was just nothing. I'm actually just doing this. Actually, I didn't know you guys would do something like this. So I grew up downtown, so I mean, I never actually knew what was going on. So it's something different. It's something good. This can be a couple years, 2 years ago, give or take, and then so some different situations. So you guys help the whole place out, which it's pretty good. It's pretty cool. Sometimes the college kid doesn't quite comprehend all things goes, they just kind of just chuck stuff aside, and then so you guys make a difference. They're not aware of it, so yeah, you guys make a difference in the community. So also you guys help me too. So I mean, financially, you guys help me a lot. So it keeps my head also straight too. So I'm grateful for you guys doing it, and then you guys make the environment different too. So I mean, it's helpful, and people don't really see what you guys do. They just kind of. As you guys behind the door, so you guys do a big difference in our aspects. Thank you guys too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was really fun. We just had a great time out here. Once you get over the smells you encounter out there, really cool stories, finding lots of fun things and making funny little videos and stuff. There's our star guy.
Sorry, guys.
Corey, Mr. 20 minutes late guy. He's usually on time.
I apologize. Hello, everybody. Hi.
Well, we're saying thank you to you for the great job.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, it's just really fun. I think something that'd be really crucial for next year. I'm making a list of properties that like to pile their trash directly above storm drains. And I think it'd be really crucial for us to get the county out, even just for move out month, to have storm drain grids drop down or installed and then pulled back out when it's rainy season. Because, it's really hard to dig in there and, but I think that'd be a great idea to prevent it from getting out just during that time. And only for particular ones, it would be a huge undertaking to put screens over every single drain. But there's just some properties where their trash happens to be directly above. And in that case, it'd be really good to have a grid.
Oh, yeah, that's a good insight.
It's an amazing insight. Well, thank you all for these reports. Do any directors have questions or comments they want to make? Director Craig.
Yeah, I'd love to say thank you. Thank you to, of course, all of you for the work that you put in during this time. And then thank you to Jenna. I really do think that like bringing like and making, you're right, making move out a thing and like bringing it to the forefront of people's minds is something that's going to make a change more sustainably. I saw it in my house during our move out. I went and collected cardboard boxes from you guys and we used all of them and we worked really hard not to buy any new boxes, but to use what we had. And overall, I thought we had like a really sustainable move out. So yeah, that was super cool.
Thank you.
Dr. Brandt?
Well, as you all know, and you may know, we work on a variety of policy issues, whether it's safety, sustainability, community resources, but it's very rare that we get to say we identified a problem and we almost completely solved it. And this is something that has been a problem that has been really high on the priority list for our community for years and years, dating back to before many of us even lived here. And this is the first year where I feel like we really, really got there to solving it. So I just want to say a big thank you to all of you. I really want to, I just loved how there were so many different opportunities for people to participate in this, whether it was on sort of a volunteer basis. I know I took advantage of the services that you and Carly's team provided with the unwanted item collection and got rid of some stuff from my place, even though I wasn't even moving out. So maybe I helped inflate the numbers a little bit. But I think that that event when I went by was just super well attended. And I think the before and after pictures really speak for themselves. This is incredible what we've managed to do. And now that you have executed this and done so well, I'm sure that you're making those little mental lists of the things that you know what works and what doesn't work and what to do more of next year. But I think that you should take a step back and really celebrate a huge, massive success for the community. I've never seen it so clean during those years or during that week right after move out happens. So just thank you. And for you and the rest of your team that had this opportunity to work with Earthcomb, I'm really inspired by how much you care about the community, and I hope that you feel really gratified to be able to give back to this place.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll go to that.
Thank you, Spencer.
Also, I just am so excited about what you've done and I love the PowerPoint. I love the before and after shots. And then also that you're analyzing what worked, what could work better, just like you are seeing about the storm drains. And so I feel like we're on this really good path of just really taking care of the community and thinking in big ways about what little pieces are needed to make it work better. And you brought a lot of big ideas to us, Janet, that were like a surprise to me. And just that you were so fluid in your thinking and so focused on all the parts and how they fit together, and then figured out how to make them work together. It was really inspiring. So thank you so much for that.
We learned a lot this year.
And I am wearing a dress from the gift sale too.
Oh.
So I was out and about.
Well, yeah, I'll try and surmise that I'm incredibly happy with this whole project, with our partners, with our staff who made this happen. This is one of those complaints where me happening to live on 6A block and a lot of more long-term neighbors, that's the number one thing I hear about is the trash and why do people dump their trash on 6-8 and every kind of complaint there could be, and run-ons about the details about the trash. And even some of my friends who like that move out produces a lot of waste because they are their own kind of business who will then recycle and resell or repurpose or something like that. And all those opportunities were gone, but for good reason. No runoff into the ocean. Not no, but you know, we've dramatically decreased that. We have a partner who's focusing on that. That's incredibly dear to my heart personally. And the fact that we had a KEYT news story on the Monday after move out and they could only see us working, not neglected waste. that's a huge image improvement for Isla Vista. That's one of the most important things we could have. These graphics about the breakdown per street and the amount of waste. I'm so happy. Yeah. As Spencer said, we rarely come this close to, eradicating a problem in this like 90th percentile. It's like, oh, I would give this 11 out of 10 already, and I know that all of our partners and our staff are looking to improve this. So I'm just super happy with this. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Yes, Dr. Freeman.
Made me come up with a question. First, I certainly agree with all of these comments. I don't necessarily feel the need to waste everyone's time with even more congratulatory stuff. I
Oh, no,
love it.
please.
So I have a question
Don't hold
about.
back.
I have a question actually come up a couple times now about like runoff issues, and so there's like a stream of water that goes down in Embarcadero del Norte that curves around. I think it's a Greek Park. That I don't know where it starts at the north end. I think it's at least as high as Cervantes, and I know that Isla Vista Beautiful. Well, the first employee we had of it actually looked into it, figured it out, and stopped it for a while. He actually came to me one day. And he's like, I managed to make this go away. See, it's dry now. And I was like, what? And I don't know. Do you know what that is?
I know what you're talking about. So I think what he had done was he cleared the drain at Greek Park. Like it was just so clogged up that he cleared it out. But I think it's a structural issue, and one of the projects going on is gonna fix it. Like either the ATP or the IVRPD Greek Park renovation. One of those
Yeah.
is gonna
I
fix
remember
this.
hearing Kimberly Keeper, maybe you remember, Carrie, she mentioned that their renovation will address the drainage.
Wow. Okay. Well, I also Spencer said that he had taken advantage of all the large object move out this time. I also did. I finally have room in my apartment, getting rid of all of the ancient furniture that had been left behind by the landlord that had originally was a furnished apartment, and then they realized that was having 50s furniture and furnished apartment was useless for students, and so they finally were like, "You can get rid of the furniture." I'm like, yes. And so it's been glorious now living in my apartment and all the furniture. So.
Great.
All right, thank you, board members. I just want to check with the public if there's any public comment on this item. All right, I see no public comment. Well, yeah, thank you all very much. I think we all look forward to seeing the evolution of this program for next year and some of the other opportunities that Isla Vista Beautiful will bring to us in the future for this year-round concepts. We're all excited to hear about it.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're gonna have to update the budget for move out now that we know all the costs.
All right. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, you guys.
Thank you.
I am listening.
Thank you. Now, we will move on to item 4.2, our AgriTurf contract for compost consulting services.
Okay, and I will share my screen. And we also have our group, George from AgriTurf is on the line, and obviously Carly is as well. And so is Richard Palafox, who's our new operations coordinator for the Compost Collective. So everyone's on Zoom, excuse me, to help answer questions. Yeah, and I'll turn it over to you, George, in a second to introduce yourself. But for the AgriTurf contract, it's pretty simple. Our board put together an ad hoc committee to look into how to provide support and improvements at the Compost Collective. We've met several times and we've done some of the things the ad hoc committee has recommended already, like with the bikes, with the position that we approved. But one of the ongoing topics has been the need for expert advice on certain parts of this system, like how the process works, the practices, our infrastructure, our training, like how we set up the composting process. So we, I think it was Earth Day. So Earth Day helped us find Earthcomb, but also I think that's when we connected with AgriTurf, and I could be wrong, but Carly got together with AgriTurf, and myself and Carrie also met with them to see if they could help us, and it seemed like they really could meet the scope of work that we need. So I'll just go over generally what the scope of work is help optimize, help do a study of our capacity with what we have, help optimize our system so that we have a repeatable recipe and delivery schedule of browns, and like essentially help us source the ingredients we need to create our compost. And then developing training systems for our staff, helping us come up with alternative methods to compost and designs for compost piles that we should, or the 3-pile system that we have. How do we can construct that differently if we need to be more efficient? And then assist with our goal of diversifying compost methods. So we're really excited to be working with them. It's a contract to October, but a lot of the work, like study work, will be done in the earlier part, and some of the more training work will take a little longer. But I'll turn it over to George now, if you want to introduce yourself and say anything about your work in composting and what you can bring to the table.
Sure. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Okay. I'm new at this technology, although the gray doesn't say, I should know this stuff. But anyways, my name is George Schnackenberg. I'm a 8th generation Californian from Santa Barbara. Our company is family owned and operated. I'm the head hog at the trough, and we will be celebrating 70 years in serving our community next year. And of those 70 years, the last 20 years, I've been involved in compost tea, as well as composting in a static aerated pile system, and also in vermicompost. And I have done work with Driscoll's in writing their organic programs for their growers from the Pacific Northwest down to parts of Mexico and Europe. And in all of those situations, we dealt with composting from a very small bin, a 3x3 bin, all the way up to, bins that are, will hold 20, 30, 40 yards, and then windrows of static aerated piles that are over 100 feet long and 12 feet high. And, so coming to your community, when I met with Carly, I thought for sure this would be, I'm going to say simple in the principles of what we need to do. The collective is going to be the getting the volunteers to help and getting a place where we could actually do all of this. And in some respects, it's kind of nice to slow down to get there quicker. And if we could find that place in Isla Vista where we could get maybe a 10,000 square feet or something like that, then my idea for you folks is to develop a compost production that could be managed by new people every year. Or, you could maybe hire one guy to do it for 2 years, and then he graduates, and then the next person could take over, something of that nature. But more importantly, you folks could generate compost that could be sold. And I'm going to commit myself to buying that compost from you guys and sell it through my store. And talking with Carly, she had some ideas with regards to bagging it, which I'm totally fine with. And, if there's ideas that you folks have, I would love to be able to even, take some of that compost if it's in bulk or in bags. And every, bag we sell or every scoop we sell, we could return that back to you folks as far as some things that you could do with generating revenue. And with that being said, I think that you folks, I'm not quite sure how much waste you generate. I'm thinking somewhere I saw in one of the papers that Carly gave me was about, I believe, 1,000 pounds a week or so. And so I don't know what that equates to as far as volume, because that would determine the size of bin that we would need to stage this. So with that being said, we just need to slow down and do a little bit more collateral gathering of information and some of our due diligence. But with regards to producing compost, I think it'd be a very simple thing to do as far as being able to put it together. And I could take you to different sites if there's somebody there where we could show you what we're doing on different properties, if that's helpful. Now, the other thing that would be interesting, I think, for you folks to consider is generating compost, you would probably be at best of selling it in a bulk fashion, probably $40-50 a yard. That'd be a good thing to get. Now, if you were to incorporate a vermicompost system alongside your compost system and further reduce that compost going through a worm's gut, you got worm castings that now could be sold on the retail market of anywhere from $12 to $20 a pound. And that would be kind of a sweet area that you could do. And maybe you just take a small percentage of it and you can increase the value. There's your value added product there. Then alongside of that, we put together what's called a biological production system to go to a biological production area that would include compost, vermicompost, and then the next would be a blended brew area where we would help you folks begin to start brewing compost tea. And we would set that up with a brewer, and we would be reusing IBC totes for you folks. And then you guys could sell compost tea, and people would be able to bring their own buckets or their own jars, nothing that you guys would have to provide for them. But I would imagine there's three avenues of revenue to be generated. And in all three of those areas, I feel, I've done it from a 5-gallon bucket to a 10,000 gallon tank for Ryder Brothers or Driscoll growers. So it's very simple to do because I've already done it. And really, it's just going to be a matter of working with Carly, who I absolutely adore. And I think she is wonderful. And I just so appreciate her passion for getting this done. And I also work with Inez Schwartz Labarino, who introduced me to Carly. And I am so about supporting you folks and the community of all of Santa Barbara County. So if there's any questions, please let me know, or if there's something further you want to know about, I don't know. I'm done, I guess. So if that's helpful.
Thank you.
Yes, that was very helpful. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. Do any directors have questions they'd like to ask this time?
And George, you mentioned how much you thought we could get for a yard of our compost, and I didn't get my pen out tight to write it down.
That was just kind of a typical price range for compost, is anywhere from, I'm going to say $35 to $50 a yard. I don't know what yours would generate, but I got to tell you that what I would do is we would run your compost through a full period. So let's say that we're going to run it, just for the sake of our conversation today, based on the efficiencies that I would see and expect from the system we designed, we would have something done in 35 to 40 days. That 35 to 40 days, at the end of that, we would be able to sell that compost right there, then and there, probably $35 to $40 or $50 a yard. You would be able to have gardeners probably roll up, and if you had some sort of a tractor, you could load them up themselves, or I will pick it up in our truck and bring it to my yard, and I will sell it at that point. But I would also, I would also like to encourage you, when that first batch of compost is made, we would take that and have it analyzed for its nutrient qualities. And if there's something missing, let's say that we're low on calcium, at the beginning of the compost process, we would add some calcium carbonate and maybe like the form of oyster shell, something that's certified organic. And then we could have what's called a fortified top mulch. And now you just really value added your compost, where you would be able to start selling it at the $60 range to $70 range. And then you have the worm food. And again, that's really, I think, could be a game changer. I wouldn't suggest starting it all at once. I would say, let's slow down. Let's do the compost first. But I would encourage you folks to find a place somewhere in your community where we could actually dedicate a composting yard. there's gonna be little to no flies, little to no smell or odor, and you shouldn't have any problem with critters getting in there if it's built right and constructed right and maintained correctly.
Thank you.
Ella has her hand up.
Director Schultz.
This question for probably Carly, Jonathan, or someone on the compost committee, but do we have a place in the community that we could potentially designate as that compost yard? Is that something that we've like thought about, or?
I think we
Yeah.
imagine hopefully that to be sort of where we're looking for a space for a bike shed in the long run. So we're hoping to sort of combine those spaces. And so we're on the lookout for land. So if anyone has any recommendations, please let us know.
We definitely don't have one identified yet. We wish we did. And land is tight in Isla Vista, but we would need to work with a partner who already has land probably and work with them in a partnership to set something up. So definitely not a quick process, but we'll see what could be possible.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm saying 10,000 square feet would be a very nice one, but if you only had 1,000 square feet, that we could do something there as well. So, I was just giving you my wish list.
Director Brandt.
Thanks for presenting today. So the question is, and maybe this is for Carly and Jonathan. So the presenter was talking about the sale of compost, and is that something that's considered in the scope of work with this contract? That's something that's going to be looked at as the revenue model.
They're gonna help us with that, and especially like the capacity of what can we generate to sell, which is a big piece of knowing what our revenue projections could be. So
Gotcha. Okay. That's good to know. And then, okay. So, and will that be, well, actually, never mind. Thanks. That clarifies it for me.
All right. Do any other directors have questions or? Okay, I'll go to the public. If there's any public comment on this item. See no public comment. Do any directors have comments they'd like to make about this contract and this item? Director Brandt.
Well, just a thanks to Carly and the compost ad hoc committee for looking at this. And this seems like a very necessary next step for the program. So I'm excited to support this.
All right. Yeah, it looks like we're all very happy and supportive of this item.
Fantastic. I'm happy to get started.
All right. Let's see real
And it's
quick.
on a quick timeline too. We like that.
Yes. Do I have a motion from any board members about this contract?
I'll move to approve this contract.
And a second. Okay, we have the motion by Director Topliff and the second by Director Freeman. Is there any public comment on this motion? I see no public comment on this motion. Jonathan, may I have a roll call vote on this motion?
yes, Director Aguilar,
Yes.
Topliff,
Yes.
Freeman,
Yes.
Craig,
Yes.
Brandt,
Yes.
Schultz.
Yes.
I think that was a yes.
All right. The motion passes 6-0-0-1 to approve this contract with AgriTurf. We're all very excited for this next step forward.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to it. I appreciate your time, and I was listening in, and I do want to congratulate Earthcomb. It just sounds like you folks are doing some really cool stuff out there, and it's exciting to see as a business owner in Santa Barbara. I don't get a whole lot of interaction with Isla Vista outside of hearing my kids tell me about the parties that they've had. But I'm so excited to be able to help you guys with this project. I just want you to know, and I do congratulate the environmental studies program at UCSB for producing really good products. I've hired 2 of them, and I'm completely pleased with the product. And thank you guys. You guys have an awesome opportunity to shine this diamond you have.
All right, thank you. We'll be sure and pass along that positive feedback to Director Deschler. Now we'd like to move on to item 4.3, our community spaces project manager role.
All right, so this is a position that's funded in the budget already, and we just thought it's a good time to start moving on this, to have someone in place before the fall quarter gets going. And so it's a project manager position. It's the same pay and benefits as the community engagement project manager. We already approved, though this is a part-time position, 20 up to 30 hours possibly, but it's focused on 20. And so this is a role that will take on essentially the operational and ongoing aspects that Maya has established for the community center and community room reservations and scheduling system. So that's one of the things we were identifying. The retreat was, where's the time going? What are we spending our time on? And one thing that came up is over half of Maya's time goes towards the answering questions, scheduling, site visits, all those things that go into just the reservations section, not even the other parts of the facility management. So this would be a position that kind of dedicates one person to all that. It's, I think, investment in customer service, because there's going to be always one person doing this, and we get hundreds of inquiries. I think we had 700 events. I think it's the right number, 700 events just in the last 6 months at the community spaces. So there's volume, there's a ton of volume to deal with. And so Maya has been, I think she put it in the chat here. Yes, I'm right. And so there's a lot of volume. And so this position will take on the reservation so that Maya's time will be, one, go under over capacity, and then also be able to use some of that now freed up time on other facility projects. And the main focus of her new time, we've been saying, is the physical wellness of the spaces, like making sure, like, look how clean the community room looks right now. It's so orderly and nicely tidy. So kind of putting more focus into the physical nature and facility upkeep parts of things once this position takes on work. So Maya, I don't know if you want to chime in on anything with the position.
I think that you covered most of it, Jonathan. I think you did a great job. But yeah, if anyone has any questions about this role or some of the things that they're seeing, I'm happy to help respond. And the exact number was 720, just in case you're wondering, for the first 6 months. But yeah.
That was as many as we had all of in 2022. So we've doubled it. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much. Do any directors have questions they'd like to ask at this time? Director Freeman.
Two very simple, likely very procedural questions. The first of which is has finance committee, this is already like in our budget, and is already okay, great. And the second question is on the job posting thing that I forgot the term for it, with the thing that we're reviewing.
Yeah.
There's, at least in the way that I'm viewing it, some of the paragraphs are different colors than others of the paragraphs.
I'm not seeing different colors.
It's from what my experience is that some of them are bright white and some of them are slightly off white.
Huh.
So
we'll look at that.
I can see it on yours,
yeah.
and I can barely see it
Get in
on
text.
mine.
Okay, all right, okay. All right.
We'll
On the-
check into that.
Yeah, we can do it.
It looks perfect online.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right, cool. There's no meaning, there's no like, these paragraphs are different.
When it's in dark mode.
All right, do any other directors have questions they'd like to ask at this time? All right, I'll go to public comment. Is there any public comment on this item? I see no public comment. Do any board members have comments they'd like to make about this item?
I would just like to comment that I am really excited at the way people have imagined the structural needs that we have in order to accomplish our programs in a really good way. And I'm also thrilled that we've been able to find so many wonderful people to fill these jobs. I know in the world at large that it's very hard to fill jobs, and it just goes to show that we are doing something that's so important that it really motivates people to want to work for us. Plus we pay for it.
Director Brandt.
I was just gonna share that hearing 722 events in 1 year, it is heroic that we were able to manage that with a staff, a full-time staff of 1. So Maya, I hope we say this enough, but I'm just so much incredibly awed with everything that you've done to help us get to this place of having regular programming and having so many people wanting to use the space. It's such a beautiful place to have an event. And I'm just really excited with how this is going. And I'm really happy. I think Jonathan called it an investment in customer service. And I think that that's a really good way to frame what we're doing. And what we're also doing is growing the team so that we can be more agile and so that there's less pressure, I hope, on our staff. I've been there before in jobs where it's like, it feels like it's all on you when you're a team of 1. I know you have interns too, which is great, but this, I think, I really hope will help be able to take some of the pressure off, and just really excited to support this.
Thank you so much.
All right, yeah, equally very excited about this. I want to just quickly riff off Director Topoff. I'm really happy that every time we have a job description come forward, I look at the wage and the benefits, and I feel really proud that we do support our employees. Even though a lot of our employees do work overtime, and we're doing our best to address that, when we do have new open positions, we always have a very fair offer for them. So I'm always excited to see that. Let's see. There. I guess we don't need to, or do we need to approve this?
We do need a motion. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Is there a motion for this project manager job description?
I'll move to approve it.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second?
I will second.
All right, thank you. The motion by Director Brandt and the second by Director Craig. Is there any public comment on this motion? All right, I see no public comment on this motion. Jonathan, may I have a roll call on this motion?
Director Aguilar,
Yes.
Director Topliff,
Yes.
Freeman,
Yes.
Craig,
Yes.
Brandt,
Yes.
Schultz.
Yes.
All right, this motion passes 6-0-0-1. Now we'd like to move on to,
Yep, just say the title.
about to move on to item 4.4, lighting plan update.
Okay, where I would like to then interject and say that I will be recusing myself from this agenda item. Due to a really ridiculous scenario last year, I now have an ex-FPPC chair or head of enforcement as my lawyer, and in reviewing the staff item, viewing the agenda item, the staff report, and my specific feedback that I would end up providing during this agenda item, which is a key part of this. He has said that I have a conflict of interest and that I should consider, and that I should, due to my leasehold on my apartment, and that I should recuse myself from this agenda item. Please contact me out after.
Nicely done, Jay.
All right.
As you walk out, can you hit the light switch?
Oh,
You turn on the
Lights are
lights.
great.
Very, very toy.
Perfect. Thank you.
That's so funny.
All right.
Okay.
Go ahead. All right. So this has been a long-standing item for our board. I put in some background in this staff report, but we've been working on this since the first year of the district. We've had several lighting walks we posted. We actually put together a lighting plan in 2019 that's linked here if you want to review it. It's pretty extensive. We got testimonials, we got the district attorney and the foot patrol to endorse it. We got lots of community surveys. We actually had lighting plans or lighting locations that we went door to door then and confirmed with the residents in those areas that they would support that light specifically in front of their place. So it was a pretty extensive process that we did. It resulted in 34 new lights getting added. And that was like the low hanging fruit of the telephone poles, for example, that didn't have lights on them yet. We were able to push that. And so that was, I think it happened at the end of 2019. So that was pretty much the last progress that's happened on lighting. Since then, we've been, since we got the low hanging fruit out of the way, and since we learned about all the obstacles that the county kind of brought forward about streetlights, and that our main focus was always pedestrian support. We were advocating pretty heavily on pedestrian focused lighting and pedestrian standards. The county standards are on vehicles. So our view has always been that kind of split. You know, we're focused on what's good for pedestrians versus what's for vehicles. And I didn't get a chance to get the number here, but CSA 31, at least in 2018, had a fund balance of 600,000. And so we were always in favor of spending that fund balance. That's, you know, CSA 31 is a special district that's for IV, same borders as ours pretty much. There's like 1 or 2 properties that are in theirs that aren't in ours. It's a special assessment and a benefit. It's a special tax and a benefit assessment. It brings in more money than it spends per year. And so it's accumulated a big fund balance, and it's focused on lighting and sidewalks and street trees and gutters, I think, as well. So we've been advocating that that fund balance, instead of being saved for sidewalk projects, to be spent on lighting projects. That was what our community, we even did a survey that said lighting or sidewalks, do you prefer? And lighting won very heavily. And it's also in our STEP process where we did our mobility plan, lighting was one of the main issues that kept coming up as well. And in our budget surveys, again, it's one of the top issues. And so we had a lighting walk this past, I think it was winter, early in the year. And we had our county supervisor there, we had public works there, our board members were there. And we went on a walk around, we kind of made the case again. We've done this before, but this is new county supervisor. So we were making the case again. And that was very successful. She seemed to really hear our case that the community is really dark at night and that it needs to be lit up. And so after that, so we had the lighting walk. Jenna and her team went around because, you know, instead of just relying only on volunteer, which isn't 100%, right? You're not going to cover everything. We did staff time going around. I think you did most of it, Jenna. Yeah. At night, looking at the dark areas and, like, you know, finalizing all that data. And so that's the list that's linked here, is all the specific locations where lights could be, where it's dark in different ways it could be alleviated. And then we were asked to submit a letter of support for $250,000 to be allocated from CSA 31. We submitted this list to support that ask, and it was successful. So the county did fund $250,000, not for our list specifically, just, you know, for the effort of lighting in Isla Vista. And the second district office organized a meeting just a week ago to start asking us to prioritize how to spend that money. And so we shared them this list again, and we said, you know, we've got to make sure what the priorities from our board are. First, we didn't know it was going to be this fast, the processing. That's actually really good, right? Because it's, the budget starts July 1st, we're already meeting on how to spend it. So that was nice, but we wanted to make sure we checked in with the board on this. And what the recommended, you know, just based on what you just saw with Director Freeman, is what we're looking for direction on is general priorities. So is it general areas that should be prioritized over others, general improvements, like whether we should go for wattage over new lights, whether we should go for the pedestrian route and really push hard on that, or be okay with street lights. So we're just looking for general feedback and general priorities from the board of how we should push to spend this money. We're not going to decide the projects. We're just going to be able to comment and heavily influence it, and it'll be probably a fast moving process, or slow, you know, slow and fast. But we want to be able to speak confidently that this is exactly what IVCSD wants to have happen. And so these are just ideas, you know, Jenna put this together in terms of, you know, this was a dark area. Maybe we can increase the wattage here to make it brighter. Something we're trying to work on too is finding a lighting design engineer who could, you know, we can at least tell that person, this area is dark. Can you help us figure out what the best way to light this area is? So that's why we're saying we're not looking for, it's not going to always be a street light exactly here that's going to be the solution if it's saying this area is dark, but that's why we're just hearing from the board what you'd like us to prioritize and keep in mind, and then we will work with the county and we'll bring a lighting engineer contract hopefully in August for you guys to look at. So just, it's so we have some, you know, backup, you know, someone who, it's really helped with the STEP project where we had a transportation engineer help explain things when we were meeting with the county engineers. So it's to have that expertise in saying, we want the light, we want it this way for these reasons, and here's like the expert backing, so. But we know we're getting questions already, and the county's asking, and we need to be able to answer. Like we've said, we're sometimes on the county's time where they need to ask and we need to answer. So we want to make sure that there's board feedback or board input in that. So yeah, I can just pull up the list just so you guys can visually see how the list works, but. Yeah, Jenna, do you want to talk a little bit about this?
So there's a list, but there's also this map. It's very simple, but in the red, I highlighted areas where it's dark and maybe the wattage of the lights are already as high as they can go. And then where it's yellow, those are areas where there are lights that the wattage can be increased. That doesn't mean that that's the way to go. So basically all the highlighted parts are areas that could be lighter. Some areas are darker than others. By talking to some experts, what I've learned is that the lighting in Isla Vista is very oriented towards cars. However, a lot of people walk and ride bikes in Isla Vista. And so I think most of the complaints are from people who are walking at night and don't feel safe. So we need to be looking at it more as if this is a town, which it is, a pedestrian oriented town, when we're thinking of how we want to implement these lights. And I like the idea of pedestrian lights. If you look downtown, there's a lot of lights that are probably almost half the size, half the height of a lot of lights here. And they light just the sidewalk rather than just lighting all over, which is something I also want to be mindful of, is decreasing light pollution. And there's ways to do that. There's ways to make the sidewalks brighter without increasing light pollution and just spreading light all over the place. So that's where a consultant would come in. The thing to keep in mind is that pedestrian lights it's more expensive because you need more of them. Because they're shorter, you need more to light a certain area than the larger poles, which don't necessarily light the sidewalk as well. So the pedestrian lights cost more. So the question is, where do we want to focus and how many lights do we want to focus in those areas, if that makes sense? It's kind of complicated. So it'd be nice to hear what areas you might want to focus on.
All right, thank you for that breakdown. So I just want to ask, I'll ask you to repeat this. On the map, the red and the yellow represent which exactly? What is the difference between the red and the yellow?
So yellow is where wattages can be increased. So I'm not saying that the best solution for the darkness in that area is to increase the wattage. I'm just saying that, for example, let me take a look. So for example, the wattage on Del Playa, Sábado, and Trigo, they're high. I can't remember.
It's the max, 134.
Okay, 134. And then on Posado and Sueño, they have lower wattage. So that's why Trigo is significantly brighter than Posado. So by increasing the wattage on Posado, it will be significantly brighter because they are not, the ones on Posado can be increased. That's not necessarily the best solution. Whereas in the red, the lights there are already at their highest capacity wattage, yet there's still a dark area there. Does that make sense?
That makes total sense to me. I understand a lot more clearly now. All right. Do any other directors have questions at this time? All right. I'll go to public comment first. Do any members of the public wish to speak on this item? All right, I see no public comments. So I'll come back to the board. Do any board members have comments, direction I'd like to give on this lighting report? Dr. Topliff.
I think that that's a very key point, that we want to light a pedestrian community. And so I think it's very good idea to get some professional consulting to help determine how that could best be accomplished, because I think probably the county is not going to be in the best position to know those answers. And just because of their orientation, it may be harder for us to make our community needs known without some professional guidance. And then it also seems to me that we would want to focus on areas that are not lit now and start that model of what pedestrian lighting should look like, and then have it spread into other areas which may be not as well lighted as they should be now, but at least they are lighted. So I just philosophically, that would be my comment.
So go with the areas that have almost no light or none at all.
Yeah, it seems.
And then again, create that model of what pedestrian light looks like. And if it's more expensive, that's the brakes.
I spoke to someone who said exactly that. He actually drew out the Isla Vista master plan years ago. And he said, you could spend a huge amount of money all over and no one will notice. But if you spend it all in one spot, it's a really good model. So exactly what you said. It just shows how, wow, this works. This makes a significant difference. And then eventually we can implement it elsewhere.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, in terms of focusing on one area and doing a lot of work, we know that IVRPD sent in their priorities already, and I know that I think 2 of their projects, or one of them, is around the park here, because this has been a dark zone. So if you want to focus on areas, it could be like, you know, that's why I put downtown as an example, because there are actually a significant number of dark areas in
And the
downtown IB.
ground is so uneven
Yeah.
too. You really need to see where you're putting your feet, or if you don't want to get hurt.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, and it seems like what, if I'm understanding correctly, I'm definitely on the preference of like more pedestrian lighting. And so it seems like to have pedestrian lighting, we would need like a new structure, a new pole. So that would be the most expensive move. So if we removed an existing much taller pole and replace it with pedestrian lighting, that difference in light would not, the illumination would not be like very noticeable compared to, as Director Topliff shared, putting in new pedestrian lighting would be the same cost in a completely dark area, but with a much more obvious impact. I would definitely support that direction also.
And just to clear, I don't think we won't be switching out anything that exists already. We'll just be hopefully adding new. But
tall
other, oh, go ahead.
The tall ones are great for the cars, so. But it's not like it would help to have a tall one and pedestrian ones, because that's for the sidewalk and the tall one is for the street.
Are there any areas you all think need, I mean, the map shows the dark spots we've identified, but are there any areas you all want us to focus on in terms of trying to get projects there over other parts of Isla Vista?
It seems like there's been a couple lighting walks, and has been a ranking of priorities?
There's no rankings in
There's
those
no
ones, but there's so this map identifies all the dark areas.
Yeah.
So that's what we know is the areas people feel are dark. But now we're trying to say which ones should go. I mean, we could go do a community prioritization survey too, or like let people vote. Or I think that's what we were just talking about in the office. We could do that, but we were coming to the board to show you like we have so much, you know, there's so much need. How, and there's limited money to advocate for. So what should we go for first?
I have another question.
Yes.
Money would come from the county.
CSA 31. Yes.
Okay. And does the county have resources in-house that do these kinds of lighting analysis that would perhaps save us money on a consultant?
Doesn't seem like it from the meeting we had with them. It looked like they're wondering what needs to be done too. And they're just turning to us to see what should be done. So it looks like they're going to let us drive a little bit, but they're going to do the projects. It's going to be their design. You know, they're going to do design like the final project and build it, but they don't have like a plan for the money. They're asking us.
And then what's the timing in terms of when they want to allocate these funds or start these projects.
It sounds like they want to do a phased approach. We haven't seen a timeline yet, but at the very least, what we've heard from them is a phased approach. So maybe some, before others. But yeah.
The reason I ask that, I just wonder if there's an opportunity to partner with folks at UCSB who specialize in this area to see if we could get some kind of input from
We can
tap into those resources.
We'd love to do that. If you could, help
Find
us
the right
identify,
people. Yeah.
Yeah. So just to give some more context is, so the money our county district supervisor advocated for the money to be allocated from the fund balance from CSA 31. Public Works, I guess, wasn't directly involved in that, but now they're the ones who are implementing it. So that's why they don't really have a plan for it, because it was a county supervisor priority and not coming from within. We would love it to have come from Public Works because we've been telling them for 5 years we need this, but our supervisor heard it really well and got the money allocated. But now the second district office is kind of coordinating the planning process, and us and IVRPD are involved to pitch priorities and projects.
And what about IV Foot Patrol? Do they have any input or have they been queried?
Not for
Do you
this, not for this exact one, we could, but when we had our plan in 2019, they endorsed it. So Juan
Okay.
Camarena, when he was Foot Patrol Lieutenant, endorsed our current, it's the same, it's a similar plan as now. So.
Thank you.
Director Brain.
Yeah, I remember having been involved in that push in 2017, 2018, 2019. The big piece of input that they provided was a heat map that overlaid on the dark areas where you could see that there did look like there was some correlation. And then they also requested that the new lights continue to be the LED color because it makes it easier for them to identify potential suspects if there's an incident that happens, because it's a more true color than the yellow cast. So I think it's good to continue engaging them. I think this is really off to a great start, and I wholeheartedly agree with Carrie and Kirsten that I think the key here is to have an engineer that's in our corner that will be able to determine all the great ideas that we're throwing around and actually make it make sense from an engineering perspective. And so I guess it's for that reason that I really don't have a whole lot of priorities from an area perspective. I do agree with what Director Aguilar and Director Shopwood brought up about pedestrian scale lighting being a priority of mine. And I recognize that probably is even going to have wildly different costs associated with it within the community, whether there needs to be public right of way that is purchased or whether that already exists. And so there's a lot of variables that potentially could affect the cost, but I think really coming to it from just having a really simple message that what we're after is pedestrian scale lighting, I think will be really helpful. Because this stuff is complicated, and I know from speaking with the engineers before that sometimes while it may look like, oh, we can just increase the wattage on this light here, it might have the opposite effect, because if you have a light that's too bright next to a light that's not bright enough with differing levels, then it creates this kind of like there's pools of light and then there's pools of darkness, and that has a counterintuitive effect. So I think having that engineer in our corner will be really crucial on this. And I'm glad you're thinking about that.
Yeah, I think one thing the engineer will help do, one thing we've been talking about is a lighting standard. But what we talked about on the lighting walk when we were on Pasado and then got onto Trigo was that Trigo, DP, and Sabado are pretty much the standard because they've got consistent lighting. It's all 134, but it's spaced pretty evenly. And so that's kind of what we're thinking about, is how can we develop a standard like that?
My only other comment would be that I know in other parts of the unincorporated areas, they've utilized solar street lighting, and I think that that's a really cool thing for us to explore as well.
Okay. Anything else we should keep in mind when we're working on this? Yes.
I would also encourage us to reach out to Edison to find out if there's any partnership opportunities there.
Okay.
I know that they did some work with the city of Goleta. So be worth reaching out to them.
Do we have a contact for them?
I know our second district office says they do, so,
Yeah, we do.
and Jordan has said that he's interested in trying to find matching funds for these funds, so that's another thing that's out there is matching funds, but there's no specific definition for that, but you know, it's possible, it's a lot of money you could match, so.
Mhm. Well, I'll just say too, that I think we have reserved specifically for these kind of capital projects. So if there was that need, then I think that I would be open to considering a funding request from us.
Good to know. We can move ahead if nothing is egregiously bad or wrong on this. We can, keep moving forward, see what can be done.
Onward.
All right. Yeah. All right, let's move on.
Let's not tell Jay to come back because I'm using his USB because I have electricity here.
Yeah,
You'll be okay.
he's mobile. He can try that one. Yeah, are you sending him a
I texted
message?
him,
Okay.
yeah.
Oh, okay, he was just sitting on the stairs there.
Okay. You didn't stop me. I would have started.
Yeah.
I'll sit down.
I don't know.
Sewage?
Your seat's been stolen, Jay.
I took your seat. Is that okay? Because I didn't charge my.
You left your purse.
Oh, my purse over there? Oh,
Yes.
well, thanks.
You ever got to go?
I'll trust Jay with it.
Smelled sewage.
OMG, what service we have from our attorney. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone. Now we'll move on to item 4.5, resolution 23-9, implementation of sewage tax.
A simple one we have to do every year. It's part of our paperwork where we collect property taxes for the sewage part of our tax. So they want a signed resolution by August 10th. Yes,
It does say Spencer is the board president.
we'll fix that. Yeah, we used last year's because,
Cut and paste.
yeah. Great, thank you.
All right, Director Bram.
I just wanted to point out that I read an article in News Hawk recently that the Goleta West Sanitary District, I believe, is considering a rate hike. So just something to consider for our projections.
Yeah, they haven't sent it to me yet, but they usually send me a spreadsheet of all the parcels that they tax and how much I don't know how much they charge each parcel. I have to go into that spreadsheet, pull out the IV ones. It's easy because we have a code, and then I just hit that 8%. So if it's reflected in the rates for this year on the property tax roll, then it'll automatically.
I don't get the sense it'd be reflected this year, but I think they're starting the E process.
Oh, okay,
Considered in the future.
sounds good.
Right, do any directors have questions on this resolution? I see no questions. Is there any public comment on this resolution?
Not on Zoom.
See none. Is there any board comment on this resolution? Do I have a board motion on this resolution?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, so we have the motion by Topliff and the second by Director Brandt. Is there any public comment on this motion? See no public comment. Jonathan, may I have a roll call vote?
Director Aguilar,
Yes.
Topliff,
Yes.
Craig,
Yes.
Deschler,
Yes.
Freeman,
Yes.
Brandt,
Yes.
Schultz.
Yes.
All right, this resolution passes 7-0-0-0. Now we will move on to our our next section, item 5, reports. Are there any reports from members of the board? Director Freeman.
At the last meeting, I reported that the Santa Barbara County local chapter of the California Special Districts Association, I always have to prepare to say that, is having its meeting this month on the 24th, the fourth Monday of the month. And I reported that it was going to be at the Residence Inn, but we've actually moved it to the Hilton, the one with the rooftop, the rooftop SB that is at the Goleta Hilton, which is at the corner of Stork and Hollister. And our guest this month is going to be Greg Hart. And so you might find that one interesting to go to. One comment to make is that you really are supposed to RSVP if you decide to go, and you can send that RSVP to Veronique. Or if that's for some reason troublesome, and you just want to send an RSVP to somebody, you can send it for RSVP to me, but you should probably RSVP. I want to always keep reporting these to make certain that, because Kirsten wanted me to make certain that I always keep restating them, so.
Did I really? Is that why you're doing that? Okay.
Could you please repeat the time and the date?
It is that's a good point. I didn't say a time. Yeah, it is. I'm pretty sure it starts at 5:30 for networking. If you show up earlier than that, some of us show up at like 4:30. If for some reason you are bored or something, but networking usually starts at 5:30, and then we have dinner at 6, and then there is a presentation usually, but in this case, it seems to be more of a discussion with Greg.
What is the date again? Sorry,
It's the 24th.
Gotcha. Of July.
Yes, it's the 4th. It's the Monday.
Sweet. Director Toplet.
Typically, I go to the Isla Vista Recreation and Park District Board meetings to keep our oar in the water. And that one is this Thursday at 5:30, and I have a conflict. I'm wondering if anybody else would like to appear instead. I go by Zoom, so you don't need to go in person.
Do you think that's of value?
Sorry, I usually make an announcement and some public comments. So I just say a little bit about what we're doing, and then
Thanks.
I hear what they're doing. So, and I've enjoyed it.
When is it? Sorry.
This Thursday at 5:30. Okay, well,
I would go, but I've got a softball game.
yeah, I'll just convey our regrets.
I can go.
Oh, thank you.
Thank
All
you
right.
for being our rep.
Yeah, that's nice. Nice job.
Thank you for being a rep. Thank you for volunteering. Do any other board members have reports they'd like to share?
I can actually not by Zoom. I can Zoom. I can go. Wait a second. It's the one month I can't go. I can go. I can go by Zoom.
All right. Now we'll move on to item 5.2, reports from standing and ad hoc committees. Are there any reports? See no reports.
I don't think finance has met since our last
Well, we have
meeting.
not. We need that.
We'll meet soon. Once you have some things ready.
All right, we'll move on to 5.3, reports from our district council.
Thank you, President Aguilar. Two updates. One is a case of interest, and one is another bill that is not related to the Brown Act, which may surprise you since that's all I've been reporting on as of late. So the first, I don't typically report on cases unless they have some type of direct relevance to the interests of the board or something that's a particular interest in the district as an entity. But this one kind of stands out. This goes back to, first, everyone is familiar with asbestos. It was the thing that was used for fireproofing for a long time until, oops, it causes cancer, like really, really bad cancer. And now we shouldn't use it at all ever, and don't breathe it, that kind of a thing. Well, there's this whole series of cases that came out of asbestos, a whole body of case law. And one of them was that if you are an employer and your employees are working with asbestos, the question was it reasonably foreseeable that your employees could take it home and contaminate the families of your employees? And if you did so, would you then be liable as an employer for that secondary exposure? And out of that came the answer, yes, it is reasonably foreseeable as an employer. Your employees are working with this dangerous thing, would then go home and contaminate families, and employers would need to be on the hook for medical costs and the resulting torts. So in this case that came out of the California Supreme Court last week, it's called Cusiemba versus Victory Woodworks. The same type of question was posed with respect to COVID. So if you have employees and there's a possibility that they can catch COVID at work, would the employers be liable for those employees going home, and then secondary infection to their family members. And the California Supreme Court said no. So the same type of analysis that applied in the asbestos context was not applied or extended to apply to COVID. So for agencies like this, because COVID is more prevalent than asbestos is now, that is not the type of risk that employers across the state need to worry about bearing, even as we are moving out of, or have moved out of, the pandemic phase of COVID into endemic phase. There is no employer liability for secondary infections from COVID. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Second is SB 790, and this it's really kind of a common sense measure, but it's kind of understandable as to where it came from. So normally, when we have contracts that we review from outside vendors, a lot of times they will include confidentiality provisions. And we always go through the motions of, well, we can't really keep it confidential because we're a public agency. And upon request from a member of the public under the Public Records Act, we have to disclose these things. So if you have proprietary information, don't include it, because most of the time you don't need to include it. Or if you do, we come up with this language that basically says, we're going to keep everything confidential unless the law says otherwise. Well, SB 790, which looks like it's going to pass, it basically says that for any executed contract for goods or services, purchase of goods or services by a state or local agency, including the price and the terms of payment, is a public record, you have to disclose it. So you can't apply an exemption to it. In the past, there was a question of whether you can apply an exemption, like, for example, if the trade secrets exemption applied, that kind of a thing. This bill would say if it's a public contract, price and terms all have to be disclosed. So small change to the law, somewhat a codification of a practice that we've engaged in over time, but just something I thought that was interesting that I shared for this board. This board obviously doesn't have a problem. This district does not have a problem with complying with the Public Records Act. But again, something interesting that I thought I'd bring to the board. And unless there are any questions, that concludes my report. Oh, Director Brandt, you had asked me before about the, I think it was SB 89 or 79 that was going to potentially add a provision to the penal code that was killed in committee. You probably followed up on your own, but in case there were anyone else, that would have eliminated the ability of law enforcement to solicit consent as a basis for a search. I reported on that a couple of months ago. But I did follow up. I found out what had occurred, and that is what had happened. That's why it didn't move on. So will it come in the future? Don't know. But there was organized resistance from the minority party. So that concludes my report.
All right, thank you for that report, Council. Now we'll move on to 5.4, report from our general manager and staff.
Great, so Sydney is officially out on leave. So yeah, yesterday was the first day out. We're processing the paperwork. It's all going smoothly, but she's out, and now Jimmy is taking on some of the work, and I'm taking on some of the other work. And Dixon is taking on another part of the work. So thank you for approving that last time. So next up is the Compost Collective. Nothing to update. Things are going pretty well with Richard, who's our new employee there. He just started less than 2 weeks ago, but he seems to be doing a really good job. Our ad hoc committee, just stay after for a second to figure out a time to meet next week or so. IV Safe, I mentioned that me and Dr. Craig and Schultz were meeting with the lieutenant on the ordinances changes, and we're going to meet again next week to keep reviewing exactly what's being proposed and being clear on that understanding. The safety stations, we have to figure out a facility use agreement with IVRPD, which was a difficult negotiation in the past, but we hope is going to be smoother this time to have a third one for this next year. So safety stations usually start around late August. We also have to renegotiate the contract with TCPD, but we are just closing out the interpersonal violence investigator one. So we're getting that one done. I had said it was going to be at this meeting, but they had some changes and we had some changes. So they're getting, run up the chain. Nothing major, but we are interviewing. There were 2 people who applied for the interpersonal violence investigator position, and we're interviewing next week for that role. So there will be someone in the job by the beginning of August, it seems. So that's good news. And I'm on the interview committee representing our district, which wasn't the case last time. So that's a new good change from last time. Acoustics project, we're just getting the invoices for one of them. We're trying to deal with the county requests that they sent a bunch at the last minute, but you know, the project's in August, we have some time, but yeah, that's going well. And parking, at the next meeting, we're gonna have a job description for an intern for parking to help us out even more on the outreach, community outreach part, like the physical part of knocking on doors and tabling and being out there dedicated to parking study. And we have our focus groups next week and then the week after for parking study. One's on Zoom and one's in person. And the first focus groups are focused on long-term residents. And so we've sent out many invites, and you know, they've sent out additional invites. The people invited, you know, we let them invite others. So those are happening next week. So now we'll report on how that goes. But we had our staff retreat, and that was super successful. That was at the end of June, right before the year ended. It was like in this room, 7 hours. We hashed out a lot of issues. Yeah, and it was a long time. But it was just our full work day, and we talked about like planning for the year and how we can improve. And then we had some public record. Our public record act policy says that I have to report the public record act request we get. So we had 3 since the last board meeting. We had 1 from someone named David who did a PRA on our PRA policies. So you know, just sent him the link on the website where the policy is. We had Peter Neuschel ask for the CARB study, which doesn't exist yet. So I sent him the drafts of the chapters, which are like not even really the study, but that's all that exists. And then he did a new request just like yesterday or the day before on every parking related item we have, like emails, documents, etc. So it'll be a big request to fulfill because there's a lot on parking, but we have that. And then this Thursday, we have a retreat with IVRPD in the 2nd district. It's like about 2 hours to talk through issues between us and how to plan better for the future.
Dr. Brandt.
Is council involved in responding to the PRA requests, especially those that are really broad? When needed, yeah.
Yeah, when needed. I usually do it, like he provided all the template responses, so I just, you know, fill in the blanks and I get the material.
Any questions from staff? They're very good about cluing me in and getting my opinion.
So we'll probably, for this one, like we probably will say, oh, we need extra time to respond because the 10 days probably not enough to get every parking email.
Dr. Freeman.
You said CARB study?
CARB, the step grant.
CARB, okay.
Yeah, that's what he called it. But yeah, the step grant. Mobility plan.
Dr. Dasher.
On the facility use agreement with IVRPD, are you having to do a new one for the existing stations or another one for Great Park?
That's something I need to figure out.
Oh, you don't know?
I
Okay,
don't
got
know.
it.
Yeah, I don't know what
Okay.
they want. Yeah.
Got it, okay, thank you.
That's all for me. And I'm off like not next week, but the week after. So, and then we don't have a board meeting on the 25th. So our next board meeting is August 8th.
So when you're on vacation, presumably you're not answering emails and stuff. So is there someone in your place who is like point of contact?
I have like on my email vacation responder thing that says on this topic, contact this person.
Oh,
So it's
got it.
not just one person. It's like,
Got it,
if it's
got it.
this, contact.
Thank you.
All right, thank you for that update. Move on to item 6, future meeting dates and future agenda items. Any directors have future agenda items would like to add to our list? Please share now. Director Brandt?
Can I just jump back to board reports real
Yes.
quickly? I just wanted to share that something of importance for our constituents is There's a new program that just went live this week, administered by the Good Samaritan Shelter, which folks may know from the Hedges House of Hope and other projects in Isla Vista. It's a rental relocation assistance fund for residents of the unincorporated areas of the county, so everyone in Isla Vista. It's meant to help cover the cost of relocating for those that have received notices to vacate, so commonly known as eviction notices. So there's information that I sent over to Jimmy and Sydney about this to include in our newsletters in the future, but I just wanted to make all the board aware of it in case we're in contact with anyone that has received notices of termination of tenancy.
Got it. That's very helpful. All right, back to our future meeting dates and future agenda items. If there's any agenda items directors would like to add to the list, please share now.
And I'm sorry, you just said we're not meeting on July 25th?
Yeah.
Because
No.
that's still on our schedule that's up.
Yeah, we'll remove it.
So we're just gonna have to change that. Okay,
You see it on the website?
that's where I'm
Okay.
seeing it, yeah.
And the next regular meeting of the Board of Directors will take place on August 8th, 2023 at 6 p.m. on Zoom and at the Community Room, 970 Embarcadero Del Mar, Isla Vista, California. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I was second.
All right, can we have a roll call on adjournment?
Director Aguilar,
Yes.
Conflict,
Yes.
Brant,
Yes.
Craig,
Yes.
Freeman, yes. Schultz,
Yes.
Deschler.
Yes.
All right, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Good meeting.
Man, I missed everything today.
Yay.
You're like so psyched.
Thank you. Great work. Thank you.
That's why we finished so quickly.
I know, okay? You don't need to rub it in.
You should know we did
I missed you.
Was UCSB got compliments?
Yeah, from
what?
one of our new.
For our environmental studies program.
Nice. Very cool.
Says that everyone